All right, gang, let's get started. Hey, just very quickly, I want to just recognize everybody who's on the call. So we got Adolph, Alex, Austin, Bernadette. Good morning. Mr. Ramey, Brandon Ramey, David, Debbie, Leah, Lynn, Nancy, and Olivia. Good morning, gang. Glad you are here. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's get this conversation started. So this quote's attributed to Einstein, and a lot of people argue that he didn't say it. It really doesn't matter whether he said it or he didn't say it. Einstein said a lot, and of course, he thought a lot. And I think that if he didn't say it, it was attributed to him because a lot of his theories on relativity and quantum mechanics and so forth. But he's attributed as saying by many people as that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think that we can all relate to that, because I think that at some point in our lives, there's been something that that we've wanted to have change, and still yet to this day it hasn't changed. And I mean, look, if we're going to get a different result than we've ever gotten, we have to change our behavior. We have to do something different than we've done previously, and that I know is a blinding flash of the obvious, but it's an important thing to remember, particularly this time of the year, because it is that time of the year where people are talking about making changes in their lives, setting New Year's resolutions. This time of the year, of course, in real estate, we look at setting a business plan, looking at what we're going to accomplish in 2021, the new year, or 22, the new year, over what we've done in 21, what we're going to change in our personal lives. So now is the time of the year. And what is interesting is this, gang, that less than 50% of people in the United States will actually have this conversation with themselves about setting a goal, or what oftentimes people say is a New Year's resolution. I don't, quite frankly, like using that, because I think that you can set a goal anytime. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we wait one time a year to set a goal and then hope to achieve it. But this is the time of the year where most people start to think about that, and yet less than 50% of people actually do take the time to set a goal. And what's even worse is that only 8% of people who actually set a goal actually achieve it. The rate of success is not very high. Most people quit within the first 2 to 3 weeks of setting the goal. And, we could talk about all the reasons why, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I really just want to talk about this question of how to bring about the change. How do we, in fact, set a goal and then move forward? So that's what I want to talk about. And I like predictability and duplication. Predictability and duplication is a whole lot easier, because what it derives from, it's manifested from, is formulas. And I like formulas because it takes the thinking out of it and it leaves you to just the doing. And I prefer to just do as opposed to think about something, because quite frankly, it makes my head hurt. So I want a proven formula. I want something that I know that if I do that thing, if I follow these steps, 1, 2, 3, that I'm going to get the results. And that's really what I want to share with you this morning, about how to affect or bring about change, and what's kind of like that formulaic approach to that. So let's talk about that. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. How to bring about change. How to bring about change. The first thing that I want you to write down is this. And this is going to be less than profound, but it is very powerful. I say it's powerful because this is the starting point. Number one, recognize what needs to change. See, the fact is, most people don't sit down and have that conversation. Most people just simply stay in the rut that they're in. They just simply go through life doing the same thing over and over again. Why? Because that's what they know. It's easy. It's difficult to change the way in which we look at things, the way in which we think about things, and the way in which we do things on a daily basis. So most people avoid this conversation and they don't ask themselves that question. And gang, I know it seems like maybe, gosh, is that really true? The answer is yes. And if you say, well, that's not really been my experience. Well, I know that, because otherwise you wouldn't be on this call. You wouldn't be part of Everest. You would be in an environment that focuses on other things. So I just want you to think about that. Number one, recognize what needs to change in your life. The first step that we need to take, this formulaic approach to bringing about change, is to recognize simply what needs to change. So have that conversation with yourself. Ask yourself that question. What needs to change? And just as a mental jogger, to give you some guideposts here, just look in the three areas of your life. Look in your relationships, your relationship with yourself. What needs to change relative to the relationship with yourself? Your relationship with your creator. How does that need to change or improve? Your relationship with your significant other, with your spouse, or any other human being, that relationship or those relationships that you want to change. Then take a look at your health, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Where or how does it need to change? And then finally, your finances and your business. What needs to change in that arena? Have that conversation or those conversations with yourself. Because gang, the first step to bringing about change is to recognize what needs to change, because we don't want to fall into that trap, as Einstein said, of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Because people say it all the time. They say, well, someday I'll, or I want to have, or one day this is going to happen. And yet they don't sit down and have the conversation about what they want to change and ultimately how they're going to have to change their behavior in order to do that. So number one, recognize what needs to change. Have an honest conversation with yourself. This is a be honest conversation. What needs to change? Number two, write this down. Desire the change. See, you need to desire the change. I believe one of the reasons that people fail to achieve a New Year's resolution, quote unquote, New Year's resolution, is because ultimately there's a lack of desire in the change. They get caught up in the hype. Well, this is the thing you're supposed to do, and so they set this goal without really understanding why, identifying the desire and connecting to it. I firmly believe that until you identify a deep-seated emotion, passion-based reason to bring about any significant change in your life, you're going to have to identify the emotional reasons. You're going to have to connect to it. So have that conversation with yourself. Really desire the change. Really desire. Understand when you say, well, I want to improve this relationship, or I want to improve my physical health, or I want to make more money. I want to increase my income by 50%. That's one of the changes I desire. Then really understand and identify the desire for that change. Why? Why do you want to? And the obvious answer, and it's a pathetic answer, is, well, because it would be better. That is not the answer. Of course it would be better. Everything that's better would be better, but that's not the reason. That's not the justification. Of course, it would be better to be in a loving, caring relationship with yourself. Of course, it would be better to be in a loving, caring relationship with your spouse, to communicate better, to forgive more. Of course, all of those things make sense, but the deep-seated reasons as to why, that you got to connect to it. Your health, for example, I'll give you this example. 25 years ago, I was over 60 pounds overweight. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, was not healthy at all, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I kept, going on this diet and that diet and losing a little bit of weight, but then falling off the wagon, so to speak, and going back to my old ways. And it wasn't until I identified the deep-seated reasons, not just because I wanted to look better or feel better. You say, well, John, those should be reasons enough. Well, I know they should be, but they aren't, because if that were the case, then we wouldn't have a third of Americans who are obese. Because doesn't everybody want to look better and feel better, not have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, not suffer from heart disease? And of course, the answer is yes. But it's not enough. We have to connect to the reasons why. We have to see in our brain, in our mind's eye, okay, what would my life look like if I actually did make a change? If I was that person who was behaving that way, I was being that, I was doing that, and I was having the things that a person who's being that and doing that has. And really seeing that and connecting with it. feeling it, touching it, smelling it, knowing it, being it. See, there's a difference there. It's not the same thing as saying someday I will. Someday I will have. No, not someday. It's like, what do you desire and why do you desire it? What does it look like for you? Why? 25 years ago when I lost that weight, the 60 pounds, and I'm proud to say that I've kept it off for over 25 years, is that I concluded why I really wanted to lose the weight, not just because I wanted to lose the weight. See, I was tired of being alone. I was lonely. I was depressed. I was sad. But I was tired of being alone. Because I was honest with myself and recognized that I was tired of being alone. I had a conversation with myself and realized that nobody would want to be with somebody who was overweight, depressed, broke, undisciplined. I had a be honest conversation with myself. And when I had that conversation, the outcome was completely different. I was able to change my behavior instantly and consistently because I identified the reason or reasons for the desire to change. I discovered desire, the passion, the love, the yearning, not just that, it'd be great to be able to fit in a smaller pair of pants, not a 36-inch or 38-inch waist, right? It'd feel great to go up a flight of stairs and not be winded. It'd be great to not have to take high blood pressure medication, right? Of course it'd be great. But why? Why would it be great? Beyond the logical. We've got to move from the logic to the passion. Nothing of significance was ever accomplished from an intellectual standpoint, from a logical standpoint. The Wright brothers didn't do what they did. We didn't put a man on the moon. Martin Luther King didn't do what he did. The founders didn't do what they did because of logic. They did it out of passion. Every single one of those people did it out of a deep-seated sense of purpose and passion, a love for whatever principle or goal that they were fighting for. Gang, we're no different. We're human. We have to have some deep-seated, passion-based love reason as to why we're going to make any lasting change. I know I spent a lot of time on that one, but the reason I did is because that is simply the most important one. It doesn't matter what your goal is. What matters is why you want it. Why do you desire it? Because that will be the rocket fuel that will get you to the moon. So write this one down, number 3. Create new rituals. Create new rituals. Ask yourself this question. Okay, I've identified that this is what I want. Well, what new behavior would I have to engage in order to achieve that thing? In order to lose that weight, in order to improve my relationship, in order to do more business, to close more transactions, to save more money, to invest in another rental, to put more dollars into savings for my children or grandchildren's college fund. So create new rituals. And I want you to underline the word ritual. What does that mean? What is ritual? Why didn't I say create new habits? Because there's a difference between a ritual and a habit. See, a habit is just behavior. And it's repeated behavior. It's done not because it's the right thing to do necessarily, but it's because what we're familiar with, it's what we do, it's what we know. And so therefore we do it over and over again. But see, a ritual is a conscious act. It's a solemn act. Well, what is a solemn act? Well, a solemn act is something that is sincere. Solemn means sincere, to be sincere. When you think about religion, the solemn acts that you engage in, the rituals that you engage in when you go to church, when you pray or whatever it is that you do within your quote unquote religion, whatever that looks like. See, a solemn act, a sincere act. Create new, sincere, solemn acts, a ritual. Not just a new pattern of behavior, but a ritual, something that you look at and you have respect for, that it's solemn to you, that it's sincere, that you're sincere in your intentions, that you know what it's about, what it's designed for, what its purpose is, what it will do for you. Number 4, write this one down. Record your progress. Record your progress. And I want you to write down next to that, just ... be accountable. Record your progress, be accountable. You can't improve anything that you don't track. So as it relates to the goal, the thing that you want to change, record your progress. Know how you're doing today versus yesterday. Know how you're doing today versus a month ago. Record your progress. So that number 1, you can hold yourself accountable, that if you're falling short of what you should be doing, that you can hold yourself accountable. But number 2, assuming that over time you're doing the right thing, you're going to actually get better results than you have before. And it's important that you recognize that you congratulate yourself, that you have that conversation with yourself, like, great job, good for you, thank you for keeping your commitments. You're bringing about the change. You're becoming the person you want to become. Congratulations. Number 5, write this one down. Celebrate your success. Celebrate your success. And I want you to write this down next to that, next to celebrate your success. Gang, I want you to derive your sense of success, your sense of success. I want you to derive your sense of success in the process from the doing. Well, John, what do you mean? What I mean is this, that so many people rely upon the results to determine whether they're succeeding or not, and they derive their sense of self-confidence from the results. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you have been on a diet, for example, and for a week or 2 weeks, you try it and you're not seeing the results that you want, and you begin to lose a sense of self-confidence? Well, it doesn't work for me, or it's not working. And so then therefore what happens? You give up, you move on to the next thing. I'm here to say this, derive your sense of confidence, derive your sense of success. In other words, define success as, I'm simply sticking with the new rituals. And I'm going to be patient and understanding that as long as I continue to do this, it's not a question of if, it is only a question of when. It's really important what I'm saying. I don't want you to lose the point that I'm making here. This is very important. Derive your sense of self-worth, your sense of success in the process by the doing, by doing the thing, not by getting the results. You're really clear. It's not getting the results, it's doing the thing. Because here's the thing, we know the formula works. It's not a question of whether the formula works. The question is, are you going to work the formula? See, and if you'll work the formula, in other words, if you'll be patient over time, it will work for you. It's not a question of if, it's only a question of when. So derive your sense of success from the doing. As long as you're doing the doing, as long as you're doing the doing, you should be confident. You should feel good about yourself. You don't need to see, if the goal is to do more business and to prospect more, you don't need to see an appointment every single day. You should have a goal of setting an appointment every single day. That should be your intention. But just because you don't, doesn't mean that it's not working, that it's not going to work. It doesn't mean that your confidence should be undermined. What it means is that you derive your sense of self-worth and confidence and a sense of success from the doing. Derive your sense of success or confidence from the doing. Such an important distinction, gang. Remember that. It's the reason that most people who set a goal at the end of the year, first of the year, quote unquote, New Year's resolution, give up in the first 2 to 3 weeks because they don't see the results that they expected. And so therefore, It's not working. And so therefore they give up. It's quote unquote not working. When the fact is we know it is working. What is missing is patience. And then number 6, review your why every single day. Remember, we spent so much time on discovering the reason for the change, the desire for the change. We talked about that, really desiring it. Well, gang, it's important that you review that every single day. It is important that you review the reason as to why you want something to change, so that you don't move away from the passion, from the desire, from the intention that's needed in order to pay the price to behave in ways that you've never behaved before. See, it is difficult to create these rituals because you're going to have to do things that you're not comfortable with, that you're not familiar with, and you're going to feel awkward, odd. You're going to lack a sense of self-confidence in the process because it's new to you. And so therefore, it's important to review your why every single day. Why am I doing this? Well, this is why. Go back to your desires. Go back to the deep-seated reasons as to why you want to achieve whatever particular goal it is that you're talking about. Okay, let me just finish with this. I'm going to just give you 3 or 4 questions that I want you to write down that help you jog your mind and your memory to create a great conversation to begin this process of bringing about change. One of the best questions you can ask yourself when you want to bring about change is, who am I? Ask that question of yourself, who am I? And just let yourself honestly answer that question. And you're going to come up with some very powerful, awesome answers. And you're going to come up with some answers that aren't so awesome, that aren't so powerful. Who am I? The second question would be, what am I no longer willing to accept? If you want to bring about change, ask that question. What am I no longer willing to accept in my life? What am I no longer willing to accept in my relationship? What am I no longer willing to accept in my health? What am I no longer willing to accept in my business? What am I no longer willing to accept in my life? Just simply asking this question, what needs to change? What needs to change? What in my life needs to change? Simply ask one of the most obvious questions that most people never ask themselves. What needs to change? Ask this question. How do I need to change? How do I need to change? In what ways do I need to change? Well, this needs to change. Well, how do I need to change? How do I need to change? And then we'll just finish with this one. How would my life be different if I changed? Fill in the blank. How would my life be different if I changed my relationship, the way in which I communicate, my level of forgiveness, of understanding? How would my relationship be different if I were more forgiving, if I were more understanding, if I were more patient, if I were more open to listen? How would my life be different if I watched what I ate more consistently? How would my life be different if I actually exercised consistently? How would my life be different if I were to be very mindful of the information that I put in my head, that I was proactive about putting positive, optimistic, powerful messages in my head and avoiding the news as much as possible? How would my life be different? How would I feel? How would I think? What would I do? What would be the results of that? What would my business look like if I got up every single day and followed a schedule and got into the office at a specific time and knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing from step 1, step 2 to step 3? Prospecting, talking to your sphere of influence, calling expireds, doing that for a preset number of hours with a preset goal, with the intention of setting 1 appointment a day. That if you woke up and had that intention and you followed that schedule, how would your business be different? What would that look like? How much more money would you make? And how would that money impact your life? And what would that do for your sense of self-direction and control and power in all arenas of your life? Okay, here's what I know. You're capable of bringing about any change in your life, ultimately, that you say that you want. But what we have to do is we have to follow the process. We have to follow the formula. And here's the cool thing. The wheel's already invented and it is perfectly round. We don't have to worry about reinventing it or trying to perfect it. All we have to do is accept it and decide to use it. And if you will, I promise you, you'll bring about any change that you want and you'll live the life that you want. And you'll unlock that potential and that person that's already in there that you desire to be. You just simply have to let that person out. All right, let's finish this up with some closing affirmations. Great job on being here this morning. It is so good to see all of you. So here we go.